We still have a lot of people coming in as the webinar is about to kick off. So we're going to give everybody another minute or two, and we'll start in just a moment.
Give him time. Give him time to sit down.
For sure.
To relax and to listen.
Absolutely. You know, I am extremely proud of all of our speakers for the Interfaith webinar series this fall, but I have spoken so much about this one tonight because there are so many layers of depth and just remarkable features to this story. There are none like I've ever heard. And so I felt like you are just absolutely spearheading this series. I'm really excited for it tonight.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I know we may have a few people who are coming in as the webinar begins, and that's certainly fine. First of all, I want to welcome everybody to tonight's opening for our Interfaith webinar series, God and the Holocaust, Interreligious Conversations in the Post-War World. So I'm Allison Vick. I'm the historian and program coordinator for the Tennessee Holocaust Commission, and it is my distinct privilege and pleasure to welcome with a full Tennessee welcome our speaker tonight, Rabbi Philip Lazowski, who is joining us from Hartford, Connecticut. So he has an extraordinary biography, an extraordinary story, and I think the most important thing to mention right off the top of the talk tonight is that Rabbi Lazowski is a Holocaust survivor. So he survived what would be unimaginable to all of us, but survived 2 years living in the present-day Belarusian forest, survived life in hiding, and survived life in the ghetto. And so he's going to tell us a little bit about his story there, but he's also had an extraordinary career in the post-war aftermath of the Shoah as well. So Rabbi Lazowski moved to the United States in 1947 and began a career first settling in Brooklyn and attending Brooklyn College and Yeshiva University Rabbinical School. He began a career at Beth Shalom Synagogue and later served also at Bloomfield Beth Hillel Synagogue and is now a rabbi emeritus at Emmanuel Synagogue in Hartford. He's been a chaplain in multiple capacities, notably for the Hartford Police and the Connecticut State Senate. He is a prolific scholar with 14 books at least to his name and one forthcoming that is and the title is Out of Darkness and Into Light, right? On Amazon.
Transforming Darkness into Light.
Transforming Darkness into Light, available soon on and already on Amazon and coming out in January, correct?
January 22nd.
Yeah. And so I will say too, he also has an excellent autobiography called Faith and Destiny, and one that's also excellent on interreligious dialogue called Understanding Your Neighbor's Faith. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that we are particularly honored to welcome you tonight, sir, because you are connected to one of our beloved members of the Memphis Jewish community, Mr. Ted Weinstone of blessed memory. So Rabbi Lazowski, without further ado, it is my privilege to turn this over to you.
Thank you so much for your wonderful introduction. And thank you so much for inviting me to speak about the Holocaust and genocide. Friends, we are living at a time when life has never been more incomprehensible. The whole world has become a huge arsenal of weapons and destruction. Mankind is helplessly divided by impenetrable war of terrorism and fear. Crime is on the rise. Hate is on the rise. And anti-Semitism is on the rise. Anti-Semitic lies are so prevalent today, the human mind can be poisoned through indoctrination of hate. Hate is destructive. There is nothing worse than hate. I have a quote from the book of Isaiah, chapter 5, verse 20. Woe unto those who call evil good and good evil, who present darkness as light and light as darkness, who present bitter as sweet and sweet as bitter. End of quote. The tragedy of the Holocaust is almost too great to grasp. The darkest chapter in the history of mankind. Friends, it is said those who forget history are doomed to repeat it, and those who are ignorant of their history, others will write for them. Those who are not conscious of their past have no ignorance of their future. This is a reminder how important it is to study and know history. Winston Churchill once said, quote, "The longer you can look back, the further you can see forward." End of quote. I firmly believe that by studying the past can we build a safe and sound tomorrow. If you want to believe in a peaceful world, you have to reach out by learning from the past. My story is a lesson to show how the Nazis brutalized, murdered, and oppressed a civilization, and the world stood by and did not care. And yet, there are many who say that the Holocaust never occurred. They refuse to admit that the Holocaust, that the horrific events that I was witness actually took place. It is a fact when the Supreme Commander of Allied Forces, General Dwight Eisenhower, who eventually became the President of the United States, found the victims of the death camps in Dachau. He insisted there be as many photographers taking take the German people from the surrounding villages to show them the camps to help bury the dead. He did it because he himself said, quote, "Get out all on record now. Get the films, get the witnesses, because somewhere down the track of history, some bastard will get up and say that all this never happened." Again, we have so many of them that say that the Holocaust never happened. This all began on January 30th, 1933, when Adolf Hitler became Chancellor of Germany. This was the first day, one of the most despicable periods in human history. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 19, verse 16, it states, quote, "You shall not stand idle by when the blood of your neighbor is being spilled." End of quote. It is a tragedy that the world stood by and did absolute nothing while the neighbor's blood was being spilled. And that is why I wrote down the book. I wrote it first for my children. I never expected that the book will take off. It was reprinted already 4 times. That's what gave her the book. By learning about genocide, in particular the Holocaust, we can ensure the world will never again have to face such unforgivable acts of inhumanity. Each survivor has a different story to tell. Each survivor has a different experience to express. Some are consumed with rage, hostility, and anger. Others feel pain and anguish. My story begins I am the firstborn son of 4 sons and a girl. When the Germans came to our town, Belica, which is not far away from Minsk, yes, I was 11 years old. That was in 1941. And what transpired there, that day, the Russians were not too far away from our town. They practiced how to fly airplanes. When they realized that the Germans are there, they came to our town to fight. And they had a first fight, and of course, they killed 3 Germans. When they killed 3 Germans, what did the Nazis do? They tried to burn the whole town. So our house was right away on fire. And then they occupied our town and devised all kind of method of torture to the people. First, they killed the intelligentsia, the brightest and most respected member of the Jewish community, including our beloved Rabbi Rabbi. Then they took all the gold and silver and diamonds and other valuables that people possessed. And then they took hostages with intention to obtain even more. But the ladies gave all their diamonds and whatever they possessed, the rings that they were married, all the gold that they needed. They claimed this was not enough. So they killed all the hostages. And then, of course, they tried to take us out from our little town in a bigger town called Zhenchel. And there were our friends, the Christian friends that we had. We had many Christian friends. The reason is my father was a fisherman, and he was fishing with many of his co-workers were Christians, and we had very good relationships with the town of Belica that we lived. But the Christians came over to tell us that what they are doing in other cities. What they do in other cities, they're killing all the Jews. So they moved us out from our town to Zhenchel, and there, in one room, for 5 children and mother and father, we hardly could move, slept on the floor in terrible conditions. So, and what happened next? They told us the only way to survive is to build a hidden cave in the ghetto. So my father and I and the rest of the boys built a hidden cave because it was so accessible to us. The place that we were placed was not finished. So it had a lot of sand on the floor covered with a roof. So he couldn't recognize because it was full of sand. So we decided to build a cave. So, and then it didn't take long. They surrounded the ghetto and we heard the shots. Everybody aroused to get out to the marketplace. So the family went into the cave. And since I'm the oldest, I offered to close the entrance to the cave that shouldn't be recognized, and I made it so sure that the cave was not noticed at all. Everything was sent. But I finished, and I tried to hide myself, and a Nazi spotted me, and he said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I lost my coat." "Where you go," he said, "doesn't need a coat." And he said, "If you don't start running, I will shoot you right now." So I started running. So I came into the place where thousands and thousands of Jews were gathered together. And then I saw a scene that it is unbelievable. You see, the Nazis were masters of deception. They used euphemism to cover all their intentions. The Jews were weak from starvation and totally isolated from the outside world. We didn't know what's going on because anybody who had a radio had to be shot. They had to give in all the radios. So the only time we knew what's going on is through the friend of the Christian that we have. So then I saw in the place where the 1,000 people gather a scene which is I never experienced to see in my life. I saw a lady holding a baby on her breast and feeding, and a Nazi came with the bayonet, pierced the baby, and threw it like a football. Then I saw a scene which I couldn't believe. A couple were dancing in the middle. They saw all this what went on. They went off their mind. So they were holding to each other, a elderly couple, and dancing in the middle when they were shooting one after another in the middle of this marketplace. And then the selection started. And I saw a Nazi standing on a podium with his finger to the right and to the left. And I noticed that all the elderly and the young children were sent to the right, which means death. And to the left were picked only the doctors, the nurses, the tailors, the cobblers, and the strong men who they needed. So, and with the finger was who to live and who to die. Those chosen lived temporarily because we knew that they wanted to kill us all either way. So, what happened is I realized that I didn't know anybody from the thousands of people, and I went around to look if I know somebody. I couldn't find anybody, but I was really looking for my family. If they found my family, at least I will die with my family. So I was, in a way, by myself. So I said, how can I survive here? So I said, I'm going to go and ask people if they're going to take me as a son. So I went over to a few families and I asked them, can you take me as your son? And they looked at me and says, we have our own children. So he says, thank you very much. So I kept pushing back and back. It was from the 1,000 left over less than 300 people. And then I saw a lady with 2 children, and the lady was holding a certificate that she is a nurse. So I came over to this young lady and I said, if you wish, I saw first the charity face, that glow, with gracefulness. So I said, maybe God will be good to me. So I asked her, would you take me as your son? And she looked at me. If you wish to go through with us, you may. If the Nazis will let me live with 2 children, maybe they'll let me live with 3. I took hold of her arm and she showed her certificate to the Nazi. We were redirected to the left side, which means to the people who live. We went to the other side. I asked her, what's her name? And she said, my name is Miriam Rabinovich. I only saw her maybe 5 to 10 minutes in my life, but I never forgot her face. So we have joined the rank of the fortunate, at least for that day. So as soon as we were there, I ran to the house to look if I can open up the cave to find my family. When I came close to the house, I saw 4 people dead in front of the house. So I fainted and I lied there. And then while I was lying, my mother came out from the cave because my aunt knew the opening of the cave. And she survived and she opened the cave. And my mother said, where is Fivele? That was my name. Where is? So she said, I never seen Fivele. So my mother went to look and she found me lying there not far away from the house on the floor, passed out. She shook me. And the first time I saw mother, I embraced her so hard that I never embraced her so hard. Now, so within a few months, uh, uh, the lady that saved my life passed my house, and I noticed her through the window. So my mother ran out and blessed her and thanked her that what she did to save my life. And within a couple of weeks later, that was the second Judenrein. Judenrein means nobody's to survive. Everybody must die. So we went into the cave again. 5 or 6 days we sat there, and unfortunately we were found. And my mother says, children, that looks like the end. If you can save yourself, try to save yourself. So my middle boy, the third boy, was so athletic that he can run so fast. So he started to run right away, as mother told him to save her. And guess what? In front of us, the German took out the gun and shoot him in the back while he was running. So, and then they demanded again gold. We never had any gold in those. They took away everything we had before. So we went to look in the house. So my mother said, now is a chance for you to run. So I ran under a bush. My other brother ran in a hothouse, and the other 2 were too small to run. So mother held them on the bush. So, and my father was not with us. So I knew where my father was. When the Germans went away with my mother and the 2 children that I watched from the place that I was hiding, and I said, I'm going to look for my father where he worked, because I knew where he worked. So while I approached the place where my father worked, A huge dog began to bark ferociously, attracting attention to the Nazis, and suddenly I was apprehended. They brought me into a movie, into the kino theater, where the rest of the Jews were rounded up, awaited their fate. As I waved through the throngs of people, I discovered my mother and the two children. I embraced, I cried out of joy, saying, Mother, and my brother and my sister. And within the 2 days, the trucks appeared, and the Jews were packing again, like sardines in the trucks, awaiting the final destination. One truck was packed, the second truck was packed, the third is coming. Mother saw that then this is, she took a chair and broke the window from the second floor that we were staying in the movie theater, and she said to me three things: try to escape, and I want you to be somebody, and make sure you tell the people what's happening here, and try to be somebody. I said, Mother, I'm not going to jump without you. And she says she cannot jump with the two children holding on her breast, because if she would kill the children herself. So she did not jump. And while I was looking to the window, she pushed me out of the window, and I fell from the second floor into the grass. And a Nazi was standing on the corner. He heard the knock from my fall, and he looked at me. He looked at my mother in the window on the second floor, and he turned around and didn't shoot me. And while he didn't shoot me, another mother came and threw out another baby, 9 years old, and he fell next to me. So his name, that I never seen, was Abe Goldstein. He was lying next to me. We didn't know what to do. So a thought came to me, I'll go back to the ghetto. And that was the best thought that God gave me. In the ghetto were hundreds and hundreds of people robbing all what was left over from the Germans. They gave it, take away all the furniture, everything they want from the homes. So I mixed with them, and I saw a guy carrying a big piece of furniture. I started to talk to him in Russian, and I said, are there any Jews left over? And he said, oh, there is in Vorets, about 25 kilometers from here. There are 10,000 Jews building an airfield. When I heard this, I said to the boy, that's wrong. When we ran into the corn and we sat there in the corn, we were small. The corn at that time was so high, so we were hiding in the corn. And when we got a little bit later dark, I started to walk, and I saw the sign Dvoris. So I kept walking. The kid was 9 years old. He says, I'm tired, I cannot walk anymore. So I saw a little wood on the side. So I says, let's go in and rest for a while. Well, he went to the wood, he fell asleep. I was up a whole night. About 4 o'clock, the sun was about to get up. I woke up the kid. I says, let's get going. He says, no, I'm not going anymore. I wanted to die because my mother and father are dead. I don't want to live. I said, your mother threw you out through the window in order for you to live. I said, I was holding him by his shirt. He ripped away from me and he ran. I says, don't you run. And I kept saying, don't you run, don't you run. and he came back to me, and we both back to Dvoris. As soon as we opened the barbed wire in the ghetto in Dvoris, he saw a cousin that was standing there. The cousin said, "Oh my God, you are alive." And he embraced him and he took him. And I never saw the kid again, the 9-year-old. We went into the Judenrat there. They took us in a house where all the refugees were. There I found my brother. So my brother and I embraced each other, and unfortunately, we didn't have much uh, to eat, much to. So we went to work at the building of this airfield, and on the way we met some uh, a Christian that recognized us, and he said, "You Lazowski?" I says, "Yes." He says, "I heard that your father's alive." I says, "Can you find him and tell him that their 2 sons are alive?" And he said, "I promise you I will try." And he did try, and he found my father, and he told him, but my father was too sick to come to the ghetto. So my uncle heard that I am alive. They came to the ghetto and took us out from the ghetto into the woods. Into the woods, we lived for 2 years. Can you imagine 50 to 30 below zero? People were dying because not only of starvation, but of sickness and of hunger. And the worst thing is you're freeze to death. You're freeze to death, only your mind works. Your body doesn't belong to you. I know how many people were frozen to death. They asked, "Can you shoot me?" Because what the Germans did when they found them, they took the body into the village and they cut piece by piece from the person's body to show that what we do to Jewish people. Well, thank God we're able to survive. 85% of the people that went into the woods from the young people never survived. We were able to survive because my father had these friends from the fishing that they lived close by to the woods. We used to come at night and beg for food, and they used to share with us. We learned how to live in the woods from the animals because the animals taught us how to live as well, especially what mushroom to eat. We saw what they ate, what they didn't eat. We started to eat what they ate. And thank God, we saw the big, beautiful mushrooms they didn't touch. And this was the poisonous thing. So you see, we learned a lot of things from the birds. You learn a lot of things when you live in the woods that I didn't describe fully in the book, which a young lady called me up and said, "Can you describe how do you describe live in the woods with the food business?" So I said that was more important thing than just to describe this. Well, I'm interested. So I wrote it on. Anyway, we were liberated in 1944, where the war was still going on, and the Russians and the Russians forced us to go to school, but we didn't want to go to school because they said Stalin is our God, etc. Well, what can I tell you? We must never forget the depth of degradation that evil can descend, the injustices and the prejudice and the hatred and the ignorance of the ingredients which produce tyrants and tyranny, inhumanity and tragedy. we must be concerned wherever these evil people live with these ugly heads, that we must do everything in our power to resist them and to eliminate from our midst. But they are the breeding grounds for destruction and death. And that's what the Nazis tried to do. We must never remain silent and do whatever we can to uh, to be intelligent enough, understanding enough, and concerned enough, and committed enough to do whatever we can to help others to remain good citizens, good people. Who can imagine what 6 million people mean? 6 million that died. We never experienced such a multitude of human beings. But it's not only the number that confounded us. It is more than indescribable cruelty, the inhumanity, and the utter bestiality and pure evil which their lives were taken. The grave tragedy of 6 million is a warning to our fellow men. We must serve a constant reminder to love and not to hate, to show faith and to show courage by helping one another. So we must never forget the depth of degradation which evil people can descend. Injustice, prejudice, hatred, and ignorance are the ingredients which produce tyrants and tyranny in humanity and tragedy. We must be concerned for these evils rear ugly heads. We must do everything in our power to resist, to eliminate them from our midst. By the way, I just want to tell you, while being in New York, I went to Yeshiva University. And the Yeshiva University, there was in the class somebody who got married. So I invited the whole class in order to come to the wedding. I told them I cannot come for two reasons. Number one, I don't dance. Number two, I don't have a suit. So he said, come without a suit. Well, the friends in the class forced me to go. So I went there. So I didn't dance. I was sitting on the table. Next to me was sitting a young lady, and we started a conversation. And this conversation started where you come from. And she says she comes from a town. Oh, it says this town is close by where I lived. And so you are a survivor? He says, yes, I'm a survivor. She said to me, where you come from? I called her, my name is Lazowski, I come from Belitza. When she heard the name Belitza, he says, oh my God, I have a girlfriend. The family saved her life, but they don't know the name of the boy, but they know they came somewhere from Belitza. So I asked her, tell me, how did it save the boy? She told me the story. So I says, I am the boy. Where do they live? They live in Hartford, Connecticut. Well, hearing this, I went right away down the place that we had the wedding. I called the telephone and I said, give me the Rabinowitz to live in Hartford, Connecticut. He said, there are 6 of them. Which one? I said, try the first one. She tried the first one, and lo and behold, the mother that saved her life answered the phone. And he says, who's calling? I says, I'm the boy who saved your life. And I recognize that she lives in Hartford, Connecticut. So I come to visit. My cousin took me within a couple of weeks to see the lady. And when she came out on the porch, I says, that's the lady who saved my life. I recognize the face. Well, anyway, to make short, they had the two children with them. One was 7 and one was 9. I married the 9-year-old, and we're still married for the last 70 years. So that part of the story. I can go on for hours to tell you about this, but then I know Anna told me that you would like to ask some questions. So I want to leave out time for questions. Huh? Allison, yes. Allison, please forgive me.
No, Rabbi Lazowski, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. And my phone has been having people text me as you've been speaking with questions. I want to remind all of the guests if you could drop questions for Rabbi Lazowski in the chat, and we'll go through those, or in the Q&A. And also, Rabbi Lazowski, can you tell us how you first were connected with Ted Weinstone?
Yeah. Well, you see, there was a big time when from Stalingrad, when they fought, they took off about 4 or 5 divisions to fight the partisans. So they came to our little town, little woods, and our little woods were too small. So we ran into the big woods. In the big woods, I met Ted Weinstein. He was in my age, and he was sitting there with frozen feet without being able to move.
Mm.
I looked at the kid and I said, my God, can't you do something? He said, there's nothing I can do. I have no shoes. And I didn't have any shoes either. I was wearing rags because we didn't have any shoes. And so I got to know Weinstein very well. And while we were there, we had something in common. We were both together. Then we ran away from each other. But as soon as the war was over, we met him again. He's coming to Lida. He went to school together with me. And we became very friendly with another friend, Willie Moll, that he also survived as an orphan. So we were three survivors together that we kept together all the time. Anytime he moved, we always talked to each other. Anytime, I mean, it was such a closeness between me and Ted because he was so bright and so intelligent, and he was able to accomplish much on his own as a lawyer and helping other people, which that's what we do. We always helped other people. We learned what it is because people helped us. So uh, Teddy, a week didn't by that we didn't call each other, even though he lived in Memphis, Tennessee, and I lived in New York. But we always, our friendship continued on in such a way. He was closer to me as a brother. And we always embraced each other. We almost hugged each other because we cared about each other. And that's what friendship is all about. He was the most wonderful guy you want to meet. And I miss him terribly. As a matter of fact, I always think about him, what kind of wonderful human being he was. Thank you so much for asking this question. I'm sorry I didn't mention him before because I didn't want to go into okay.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. There are a lot of questions coming in the question and answer. We have one from Miss Georgiana Vines that asks if you could tell us more about what people could learn from the animals and about surviving in the wilderness.
Well, from the animals, you can learn a lot. There is an animal, when it starts somebody approaching, she starts crying. And this animal saved our life. And we have to get used to the voice of the animal, because this animal has a striking kind of voice that is scary. And when the voice of the animal start to make this kind of noise, you get used to the voice, then you know you have to run because somebody's approaching. That is one thing. The other thing is, of course, is learn from the animals what they eat. Well, we know about if you eat the grapes and all this. Well, we didn't have grapes there. We had strawberries or blackberries. This we knew how to survive, but we didn't know the that I mentioned before, the beautiful Baravikas, which means the mushrooms. The mushrooms grow beautiful like this. We didn't know about mushrooms, but we saw what the animals ate. So we followed the animals because there was no one to ask what to eat or what not to eat. So all in all, but most of all, we went to beg for food, and that's very important. Uh, we went to the town, to the villages where the fishermen live, which is close by where we're hiding, and we knocked on the door if the Nazis are there. If the Nazis are there, we ran, because otherwise we'd be caught and shot. But if they said nobody is here, you can go and beg for food. So we went to each and every one, and the people were very kind to us. Everybody gave us some potatoes, some corn, sometimes a piece of bread, and sometimes they had, some people gave us even meat. And what are we going to do? Meat to put in the cave. So we hang it up on the tree. We get up in the morning, the animals help themselves. We shared with us. So they took away it. So you learn awful lot in the woods how to survive from the animals, and also how people can help you and so on. Any other question?
We have actually quite a few, so I'm going to, because I'm watching the clock as well, I want to combine just a few of these so they're asking similar questions. A couple of them are asking, have you ever returned to the woods where you survived? Have you been back to Poland or Belarus?
Yeah. I went to Belarus 3 times. First, I went to show to my children how the woods, and then I brought my grandchildren as well. And they looked at the woods and they said, "Oh my God, how can you survive 2 years in this wood? There's nothing there, only trees." Yes, these trees helped us to survive. Uh, but to survive in the woods is also a very important lesson. You have to learn how to survive, because you have to learn the weather. Uh, sometimes when the winter approaches, you have to prepare yourself to live in a cave that you not be able to get out for days, for weeks, because the snow covers. You cannot go out from the cave. The reason is, in order for you to go out to get some food, you will leave a mark of your feet that somebody is walking there. And if somebody's walking there, they knew that somebody's hiding in the woods. They would go and tell the Nazis over there is somebody they would kill. So the only time we can go to ask for food was when it's snowing or when there's a blizzard. So the snow covered up our footprint in order to go. Same thing during the winter. We didn't have problem with food because not with water, because we took the snow and melted into water. But during the summertime, we had a lot of trouble in getting water. Where we lived, there was no water in the woods. So we had to go to nearby a river to be able to wash ourselves during the winter time for 3 to 4 months, or maybe even more. And it was terrible because of the lice. You never change your clothes. You never wash yourself, which is the lice eat you up alive. You go up in the morning, you shake your undershirt, what you wear. The snow becomes black from the lice that you throw off from your shirt. That's how terrible it is when you don't wash yourself. To live in the woods was very, very terrible. But you try to survive no matter what. You learn how to live, and every move is an experience in life. Whatever you can save yourself and save others and share with others, that's what we did. The story, a little baby was crying and the Germans approaching, and the mother took the hand and put it on his face, but she didn't realize she put also the hand on her nose, and the kid couldn't breathe and became blue. And then when Germans approached, the baby didn't breathe, so she left the baby under the little tree that was there. And we ran. At night, we decided to come to bury the baby. Lo and behold, we see the baby's alive and kicking. So we decided to take the baby and said, we promised ourselves that no matter what, the baby will try to save before us. And we saved the baby. And this baby grew up and became a lawyer in New York. So there are so many stories how to survive in the woods, which is, you can write many books, which is impossible. Each and every one has its own story. Yes.
And so a few of the questions in the Q&A are asking about your life in the United States. And how did you come to the United States in 1947? And also, how did you know that you wanted to become a rabbi? What was your journey into becoming a rabbi?
Well, that's a big question. Okay. I came to the United States. I didn't want to go any other place than Palestine. But that time, Palestine was held by the English people. and they didn't let anyone to go to Palestine, only to try to enter illegally. In order to enter illegally, they caught you. They they put you in Cyprus into uh, into a camp. I didn't want another camp anymore, so I did not want to go to Palestine. In the meantime, my father had a sister, two sisters, my brother in America, way before. They found out that we are alive. So they got in touch with us and he said, why don't you go come to us to America? So they send us a visa, and in no time we came to the United States. I came to the United States the age of 17. I didn't know the language and I didn't have any money. And we never had money since unfortunately what the Nazis did to us. So in the United States, not knowing the language, I got a job to load frozen eggs to deliver to the bakeries from 3 o'clock in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. After I finished in the afternoon, I used to come home, change my clothes, and go to school. So I went to school to Thomas Jefferson High School, and I graduated 2 years. Then I had over a B average. So, and Brooklyn College accepted me without pay to go to college. Yeshiva University accepted me, but it charged $6 a credit. I didn't have $6, so I had to go to Brooklyn College. But I went in the morning to the rabbinical school. For the rabbinical school, they don't charge, but for the college, they charged. So I had to travel from Yeshiva University, which is uptown New York, to Brooklyn College, which is in Brooklyn. So I had a job in the afternoon to teach Hebrew because I knew Hebrew before. When I was a little boy, I had a private teacher that taught me Hebrew when up to the age when I was 11, and in my little town, Belize. So I tried to survive in New York as much as I can till the summer. I used to go to be a waiter in the Catskills. So I used to earn as a waiter some money so to be able to survive and be able to buy books that I loved to read and so on. While going to Brooklyn College, I decided to write this book, Fate and Destiny, for my future children. If I will marry someday, at least they should know how their father survived. And that took my time. I never went to any movies. I never had any movie money. I never went to the ball games because I was constantly involved in studying the language. But I did hear the Brooklyn Dodgers playing because where I lived, I opened up the window. I used to know what inning they are, etc., in order to understand a little bit about baseball, which I learned from listening through my window in Brooklyn. But I never went there for a game. Yes, that's the story.
Um, A couple of the questions were asking how many of the members of your family survived the Holocaust and what happened to your mother and younger brothers.
Well, my mother and the two children were perished from the movie that they packed right away. They selected all the people that survived from the second destruction of the Holocaust, and then my father survived because the Christian friend that they worked for did not let him go back to the ghetto, so he survived. And my brother survived because I found him in Dvoras. So once I found him in Dvoras, we always stuck together as a family.
And another question asks, have you been able to forgive those who persecuted you? Have you been able to forgive the Nazis for what they did?
It's a tough question. Listen, I forgive, but I never forget. So you have to forgive people who make mistakes. Some people don't know what they're doing. And of course, you cannot hold grudges the rest of your life. You must be able to forgive people, to see that the mistakes that people make by hurting other people is a terrible thing. And you have to start to teach them to understand what life is all about. What is such a beautiful world that we live. We shouldn't hurt one another. We should love one another. So I really forgive the people, but I never forget what they did to us. So you have to have a heart of forgiveness and be able to show kindness to others as well. So I am not the one to judge them. Let the Almighty God judge them what they did. So I forgive whatever they did, but God has to deal with them themselves.
And then I'm going to take one liberty and ask a final question because I'm watching, I know it's getting late on Eastern time, but I really am fond of your book, Understanding Your Neighbor's Faith, that you helped edit and compile and put together about what Christians and Jews should know about one another. What do you think is sort of the core message that you want your audiences to pull from that work?
From that work, I want people to understand that we must live together in this world. This world is made for all humanity, and people should respect one another. People should worship whatever God they want, but if they worship God, to be kind to people, to bring peace to others. And that is the most important thing, that you cannot be a bystander. You have to act now in order to help others. And that is the most important thing that I tried to emphasize in the book, because I had many good Christian friends, and I had a father, Father Diley, with that we worked together in the Hartford Hospital for 40 years, helping others. He was so close to me that we always had lunch together. We always shared joyful occasions together. And as a priest and a rabbi, we had such a close relationship that when I was named the chaplain of the Hartford Hospital and the Hartford um, Chapel. So I said, I would like also that Father Kyler named it me. And they did, because I love this man. And I said, if I would be named, I like him to be named as well. So it shows the closeness that I have with other people in order to make this world a better place to live. So all in all, if you want to believe in any other God, I believe that's wonderful. People should believe whatever they want. But to hurt other people, that is the wrong thing to do. To hate other people, that's a terrible thing to do. So the Bible teaches us to be kind to one another, have respect for one another, and love one another as brothers and sisters. So if we can achieve this kind of atmosphere in our world, then this world will be a better place to be. And that is the message that I tried to convey in my new book, which is being published now. So all in all, I hope that people will read and understand that we must be kind to one another and share one another good things together.
Rabbi Lazowski, thank you so much for your time this evening. I know that we are joined by dozens of people online. I've had my phone being texting of how many families are joining to listen to you speak tonight. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you to everybody who joined us. And a reminder that next week we have our second in the Interfaith webinar series with clergy across the state of Tennessee who are working with the Tennessee Holocaust Commission. So thank you so much to Rabbi Lazowski again, and I wish you all a wonderful night.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for inviting me, and God bless you all.